everyone. I'm Katie Johnson. I write about work for the Boston Globe. And I've done that job for many years, which means I don't have a lot of personal experience with our topic today, which is internal mobility, because I've had the same job for so long. But I have had a front row seat to see a lot of the younger generation of employees, especially, increasingly moving from job to job. In search of, new opportunities, new challenges, more money in their paycheck. And, but I've also seen that employers who are able to provide opportunities internally, they are able to not only retain valuable staff who have knowledge and experience and also ambition, but they can also save money by, not having to pay to recruit and hire and train new employees. So we have a group of panelists who are eager to share their stories of how they've done it themselves and what happens at their companies. So I'll just have you go along and introduce yourself one-on-one to begin.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Kiniry, and I'm currently the regional head of talent acquisition at Henkel. Not many people know Henkel. They think of the knives, but we're organization based on two major business units. One, consumer brands, so you might know Dial Soap, Snuggle, Got to Be, professional hair care products, Persil. That's all our consumer division. And then the other division is adhesives, which again is another mental leap. What does that mean? If you drove here, if you're talking on a cell phone or on your computer, if you mowed your lawn, if you did laundry, anything that's made or manufactured utilizes adhesive to help assemble it. So our adhesive is in mostly everything you touch in your daily lives.
Awesome. So hey everyone, I'm Steph Ricks, and I work for a company called Strategic Education Inc. Similarly, you probably don't know who Strategic Education Inc. is, but we're one of the largest education technology companies in the US. So we have a house of brands that we partner with workforces to help them really internally create a culture where skills are the currency. Some of the more recognizable brands, so the marquee brands are Capella University, Strayer University, the Jack Welch Management Institute, Sophia Learning, Workforce Edge, which is our sales as a service platform to support employers manage their tuition assistance benefits. And I lead corporate development in our technology partnerships.
Nice. And hello, everyone. I'm Shardé Marchewski. I'm the Global Head of Purpose and Inclusion at Wayfair. Hopefully everyone here is familiar with Wayfair. All right, so we're a retailer platform where we basically pair numerous different suppliers with end customers, and we specialize in home goods. So if you have not taken a look at Wayfair's website yet, please make sure that you check us out. I oversee all of social impact and DEI.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Feeley. I oversee the talent function at a life science and diagnostics company called Revvity. Also, most people haven't heard of it. We rebranded our company about a year ago. So we're in Waltham, right outside of Boston. We were previously known as PerkinElmer if you're in the life science or scientific space. So we like to say we're a one-year-old company with 80 years of experience because nobody knows who we are. So in my remit and my org, in the talent function, it's everything from talent acquisition, learning and development, talent management, leadership development, and internal mobility. So excited to be here today.
And hello, everybody. My name is Jason Cerrato. I'm the Vice President of Talent-Centered Transformation for Eightfold.ai. We're an HR technology vendor that plays in this space. We provide solutions for talent acquisition, talent management, AI-enabled skills management. And I currently work with a team of transformation advisors working with organizations going through the transformation of shifting more towards potentially a project-based work model or trying to drive internal mobility in their organizations and shifting from always leaning towards having to go outside and creating a rec for everything and trying to drive more enablement and development through reskilling and upskilling with their workforce.
Great. Well, why don't we get started with having a few of you share your own personal stories of internal mobility. Shardé, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. So I actually started off in the category management team at Wayfair. My background is in finance, so I've always been on a revenue driving side of any organization that I've worked for. And when I began at Wayfair, I was on our category management team overseeing our furniture and decor business for Wayfair Canada. So heads down and really focused on how do we set the right pricing? How do we think about speed? How do we make sure that customers are finding our products and able to buy them? And after doing that for about 3 years, I had the opportunity to launch Supplier Diversity, which was very fun and interesting for me because while I was also leading our furniture and decor business on Wayfair Canada, I happened to also be the lead of Way Black, which is our Black ERG. And so I was looking for a way to kind of merge these two roles where I'm thinking about impact, I'm thinking about diversity, but I'm also still anchoring this around our commercial strategies. So I launched Supplier Diversity at Wayfair, where we focused on really, one, coaching Black-owned businesses. How do we get them on our platform, and how do we get them into a good position to where customers actually want to buy them? So if you guys go to Wayfair or All Modern or Paragold, and if you type in Black-owned, you should see our Celebrate Black Makers landing pages on all 3 of those platforms. So after doing that for about 2.5 years, I was then able to expand my scope to oversee all of DEI and social impact. So right now in my remit, I'm overseeing our commercial DEI strategies, our people DEI strategies, and then I also have some social impact as well too. So I am very much so a product of internal mobility, and I think it's honestly been great because I've been able to take my I would say like hard skill set of really being on the finance side, thinking about commercial strategies, thinking about how do you drive revenue, how do you think about profitability, move that to something that felt a little bit more fulfilling. How do we now bring all these skills to underrepresented organizations and businesses that may not have had that same opportunity to grow with a big retailer like Wayfair, and then layer that with, now I get to oversee everything with the people as well too, which is really fun.
And Allie, did you want to talk about your experience?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been at Henkel for 22 years and did a lot of changes within the organization. So I started, my background is chemical engineering. So I started out as what we call an application engineer. So the person going, visiting our customers, like I mentioned, whether it was a cell phone or a weed whacker, and trying to help them figure out, all right, how do you help make your manufacturing process more efficient with the use of our adhesives, if that was the right solution. So a lot of customer facing. You'll see throughout my career journey, I'm a problem solver. I love helping people. That's just what I gravitate towards. While I was in engineering, I would always hear from my fellow engineers, salespeople, they don't know what they're doing. They're, idiots or whatever. And I'm like, really? I don't know. We work close together. I don't think they're idiots. So let me see what that side of the fence is like. So when an opportunity came up for a sales role, I was like, hey, I want to try it. And I have to say that was a risk for the organization because back then, not a lot of engineers went into sales. They were scared of that, like, how long is she going to even do this or whatever. But they had faith and took the risk. So I ended up doing sales and key account management for 7 years, a lot longer than I thought. And then at that point in my career, I really wanted to try people management. And at that point, a role opened up back in engineering. So I did that and thought I helped stem the tide between engineers and salespeople getting along better. And then our organization went through a change within adhesives where we wanted to have a more global operating model. We were always global, but wanted to have our departments work more together, have strategy set globally, not just in our silos. So I took on a role as a global market and business development manager, which was awesome. I never did strategy, so that was something I really looked forward to trying out. Absolutely loved it. But at that point in my personal life, I had 4 children, ages 4 to 8, and traveling around the globe just didn't fit or work. And my husband didn't like it either because he was stuck at home with the kids, and he was also trying to have a career and travel. So I didn't know what to do, actually. And this is where HR, I think, is so important in an organization. I went to my HRBP and I'm like, I have never, ever had to say I can't do something. And I just didn't know what could I do at this company where I didn't have to travel and where I could have that better work-life balance. And they were like, don't leave, we'll figure this out. So they found me a role in strategic pricing, which again was nothing I had ever done. So I was able to do that, cut my hours. So I worked 8 to 3, and then I told everyone now I'm going to do my second shift with the kids. And I did that for 6 years. And then that same HR person came to me and said, hey, there's an opening in talent acquisition. Would you be interested? I know this is not at all anything you've ever done. But again, that thought process of HR thinking through, hey, she has certain skill sets that can transfer to other roles. And I had a passion for developing people, and I ran our internship program just as a volunteer thing. And so I had that gravitation towards the HR field, and here I am now 3 years later. So just sharing that you really can look at your employees and find transferable skill sets, things that really drive them, and they can be applied to totally different areas in the company, which has been great.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I couldn't hear much after you said 4 children aged 4 to 8, though. That's amazing, but yes, congratulations to you. Well, spinning off that, I wonder if some of you could talk about how much onus is on the individual employee versus the employer to seek out ways to advance.
So the way we communicate it is it's definitely a shared responsibility. So we empower employees to own their careers, ask questions, raise their hand, say, I'm interested. Really, Allie's experience is very similar to what we try to empower to all of our employees. So her story is, our ideal state in our company. So there's that component where we want to empower people to stand up and say, hey, I want to try something totally new, or try a project or go to a new location. But also we focus a lot on development in our annual talent review process. So, we review all employees at our company at all levels. And one of the things that we look to do is we really focus on, we say talent review is step 0. And what matters is what you do after it. So if you have identified people who are curious, have transferable skills, are eager to try something new, that similar to Allie's experience, we want those HR partners to say, hey, have you thought about this, or do you want to try out that? So, we have some structure and metrics in place to say that, that is an action that we track and progress throughout the year. So while we say employees own their own development and everyone's encouraged, we also have a really targeted approach to talk about it, think about who are those personalities who could try new things, and then really focus 11 out of the 12 months on developing them and progressing those opportunities for them.
Yeah. Well, Jason, did you want to add to that to talk about how you kind of measure and track what happens with mobility and how important that is?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I talk about and that we talk about with the leaders that we work with is how, with the transformation that's going on, this requires thinking differently and managing differently, but also measuring differently. And we often say what gets measured gets done. So in a lot of organizations, you'll look at things like attrition and retention, but increasingly organizations that are trying to drive this are looking at other measures, like cross-department movement, and if you're looking at projects, involvement and utilization and things like that, or tracking development. And part of that is a challenge because managers are always kind of concerned, I'm trying to achieve my objectives that I'm held to and drive the goals you're holding me to with this team. How am I going to do that while you're also asking me to share my people and move my people around and be an exporter of talent? Part of what technology like AI and a platform like we offer provides is the ability to create this ability for this kind of regenerative system where as you move people around, there's also this kind of, we call it skills-based role readiness. You have this plan for, as people are moving, who's also coming behind them. So it's not as much of a conversation as I'm going to lose somebody. It's also, well, who's also available to replace them? So people are thinking about, what are the metrics that we can shift so that allows us to change the conversation? Because when you change the conversation, you can change the behavior, which can drive some of these outcomes. Another thing is just we've been working with organizations that from a leadership level have tried to model this. So, when the organization is trying to drive mobility and talk about movement and kind of cross-pollination of skills, when they were driving this, the leadership team rotated, and the leadership team changed positions, and the leadership team mobilized. So it was, don't just do what we say, watch what we're doing, and they modeled it. So the first part is, there's some behavior, but there's also, what gets measured gets done.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, Stephanie, did you want to talk some about how you build programs around upskilling and reskilling?
Yeah, so right now, and I'm a data girl, I was telling them in the back, I was like, I'm gonna have my little index cards. So 87% of employees say that a strong skills development program is important to their job search. So with that being said, what we found is that forward-thinking employers have been really intentional about investing in these upskilling and reskilling initiatives and programs and platforms within their organization. But what we find, and what of course I think a lot of people can even attest to, is that a lot of those initiatives and programs can be pretty costly. And we know that when we're thinking about cutting budgets and cutting funding, and even when we look at our kind of standard traditional learning and development teams, they're not teams of 10, 20, and 30 people. It tends to be a team of 2 people or 3 people, and then they've implemented like LinkedIn Learning, and then that's the solution. That's not necessarily the best. So what I then empower, and as an organization, what we empower our partners to do is to really look internally at a benefit that you already have that will drive, right, learning and creating this culture of education within your workforce. So a benefit that ideally in the beginning was used to attract talent just really needs to be repurposed to think through how you retain talent and how you upskill and reskill, and that's tuition assistance. Most companies offer some level of tuition assistance or professional development funding, but what ends up happening with that, yes, it's introduced to get someone to work for the company or through comps and benefits in the beginning. But once the employee starts, it's not really top of mind anymore. When do you revisit, right, like the benefits that you have, except for November when you need to kind of re-enroll again? I can tell you I don't. So what we realized was that we needed to empower. So the problem was looking at what was kind of the strategic impediment of tuition assistance and just rolling that out internally. And I think there are 4. So the first one is that it's underutilized. So that should tell you that the benefit is not much of a benefit. Can you guys hear me? So, okay. So I don't really need to know any company individually here to tell you your utilization rate is between 1 and 2, and 2 is being very generous. So that's number 1. So employees aren't using it. They don't know where to find it. They're not even really sure what they look for, what the lens of upskilling and reskilling. So that's the first part. The second part is that the benefit is siloed. Times sit with comps and benefits, not necessarily with learning and development, and not necessarily tied to any internal initiatives. You think about something like AI and cybersecurity and things where the company kind of needs to go and grow. So it's not tied there. 3, the policies are pretty restrictive. So it will say that someone needs to be taking courses that align and support their current pathway and what they're doing now. And what we see, right, with displacement and just kind of realigning roles, people are shifting. The policies tend to not cover things like certifications or trainings. So it's very limiting. And then the last piece is that managing the process is cumbersome. So I don't know if anyone here has any oversight of how tuition assistance is managed within the organization, but I can tell you, large or small, most companies are managing it with a spreadsheet or a Google Doc or some sort of Excel document. So it's not the best. And then the reimbursement process is very difficult for employees. So we thought to ourselves, well, if this is the problem, we need to be able to create a solution. So what we did was we developed a platform called Workforce Edge. Workforce Edge is, and the way I describe it, it's like an Amazon marketplace for education. So it's a diverse marketplace of learning providers ranging from GED to PhD and everything in between. So certifications, industry recognized credentials, training programs, and courses. And it gives the employees now access to this suite of thousands of programs and opportunities that they can then kind of go in, look at and say, wow, because my company right now may not know where we're going directionally with all the changes, but I need to kind of own my own growth and development, right? skill and reskill myself. So that's the first part of the platform. The second part to address that cumbersome piece is that we own operational process for the HR teams. So from does your employee qualify, are they approved, and the reimbursement, that's handled in the one platform as well. And then lastly, you need to be able to tell the story, because the business needs to start seeing that if you leverage this benefit appropriately, there are major impacts to the business, right? Through a lens of decrease the attrition, increase retention, and all the things. So we then provide access to these really intense dashboards that give you the data analytics around, does it work? Is it making sense? Where are your employees going? Where are they focused? Through a lens of internal mobility, are they moving up? Are they seeking promotion? And I know you guys are probably thinking, well, here I am talking about this platform that we designed and developed, and I just acknowledged that this is costly. So how are we paying for this? What we've done as a company, so the mission and vision behind Strategic Education, Inc., it's about creating opportunities for economic mobility, not just for our students and learners, but for the communities, right, that we serve. So we offer access to that platform at no cost to all of our employers. So if your organization offers tuition assistance, then please, my colleagues are here, they're around the room somewhere, please find them, they're outside, because that is a way at no cost that you empower individuals to own their trajectory. And the last bit of info is that the reality of the situation is 47% of people will need to learn new skills over the next 3 years. And 1 billion people will need to be reskilled by 2030. No L&D team is kind of ramping up and internally right now to do that at scale. So you really do have to rely on benefits that you already have and give people agency and ownership of their own trajectory.
Well, so how does it work with employees who come in and maybe they have advanced degrees or they have a degree of expertise and they're not really interested in changing jobs or in advancing up the corporate ladder? Like they're happy doing what they're doing. How do you go about making work fulfilling for those people or challenge them to actually do more?
I could share. At Henkel, we have a lot of PhD chemists and analysts, and a couple great examples of individuals that have been in those roles for literally 30 years. And what we try to do is engage them in other activities so they could be mentors to early talent coming in or new people into the department. They have the opportunity to work on special projects so that they're being engaged in different ways than just their role that they've been in. Even when I was in the pricing role, I had one woman on the team, 42 years with the company, another gentleman, 30 years, and same kind of thing, just always engaging them in things in departments that touched our department or like I said, that mentorship. So there's a lot of things that you could do with them that still keep them engaged. And I will say, those are the people you want. Like as a manager, I always want folks on my team that want to do that job for the long term, and then the people who want to continue to change. You can't put a price on having that nice combination and diversity of a team that you have.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Did you want to add to that?
Sure, I can add something. So we have a similar employee base where we have a lot of PhD scientists. And we have a little bit of a different dynamic, though, in that we have locations that are close to some strong universities. So we have a really strong pipeline of people graduating with their PhD and coming into the labs and working for us. The challenge is we operate across 38 countries. We've grown through acquisitions. So all of those locations are a previously acquired company. So the complaint we hear is this company does so many cool things, right? We're doing testing of babies still in utero or newborn screening if anyone has ever had a child and they get the heel prick in the hospital, that's our company. Or cell and gene therapy to discover new drugs to solve new cures of new disease states. So there's so many different ways they could go, but they came in through this university into this lab, and they want to discover more and they want to apply science and try it. So some of the things that we're doing right now is we, over the last year, have launched the concept of gigs, which is kind of a risk-free, 12 weeks or less, only a couple hours a week, jump on projects and really make it skills-based. So you say, okay, this is the skill that the person needs, and this is the skill you're looking to develop. If you've never done it before, apply your background and try something new. And we can do that at a global scale so people can collaborate virtually, globally. And then also we're looking at what we're calling an early career scientific forum, where we are helping them build, more educational about how do I submit a patent? Or if I want to do a job rotation, how do I do that? And how do we in HR give them those benefits to move to those different locations? It gets tricky there because I feel like there's not a lot of people, you don't have the road warriors of the past, right? Like my dad was in corporate America and he was never home, right? He flew all around, and that's not what we hear people want anymore, right? They want those experiences, but that doesn't mean they want to change their family situation or move away with their kids. So we're looking at more, how can we do remote projects as well as more travel? So it's really like, how do we look at our travel and expense budget and allow people to gather and kind of set the stage for a project and then go back to their respective locations and continue to solve and collaborate on it.
Yeah.
One of the things that our technology helps enable is this capability that we refer to as Career Navigator. And you asked earlier, who owns it, and does the company push it, or do people own their own path? And what this enables is a little bit of both. And it also helps with this understanding of skills and skills intelligence to kind of look over the fence and see how skills can potentially cross-pollinate across functions. The way job ladders have been built and the way competency models have often been built, they've often been built historically with job ladders and within a function. And part of the challenge with creating mobility is that people don't often understand, how does that translate to that group over there? Or oftentimes there's people in other groups doing the exact same work, but it's called something different with a different job title, and it's referred to differently, and they're not seen as a cohort. So what this technology does is it helps kind of understand and identify that these things are adjacent or related, or they can be seen as a group. And with this navigation tool, it helps people identify, potential common career paths or adjacent career paths, or things you may be able to consider with additional learning. But then also from the top down, the company can potentially, I refer to it as kind of put your thumb on the scale and say, here's a company recommended path where we need people to pay attention to because we need people in this area. So it's a blending of kind of top down and bottom up. But then to kind of piggyback on your other question, along the way, it's also how are you defining internal mobility? It's not just jobs, right? It's projects, it's events, it could be volunteering, it could be a variety of things, all of which are gathering what are the tasks involved, what are the skills involved, and then you're getting a profile on who these people are in a more complete way. But then also, if there's people that are not looking to do those things, they can be incorporated in that process as mentors, like sharing tribal knowledge, sharing knowledge transfer. So it gives all of this kind of a living, breathing, dynamic thing. And one of the things that organizations are finding is, similar to tools we have in our personal life, kind of in our 5 to 9, right? All these apps on our phone, as people are doing this and they're adding data to it and they update their profile, they complete a course, the more information they add to it, it learns and it updates and it's dynamic. So I closed one door, another door opens because now I've added something to my profile, or I've completed a training, or I've finished this event. So it's no longer these static libraries of information, it's these dynamic things that are continuously updating and evolving.
Oh, that's fascinating. Well, on the flip side of that, entry-level employees are kind of the ones who can benefit the most from moving up and having you help them with a career ladder. Are there ways that you have seen to kind of benefit this group of employees specifically?
Yeah, I can take that. And it's so interesting because I thought about that question and I wrote down, right? Rotational programs, access to stretch assignments, and then one that people find very difficult, simply offering feedback. But what this doesn't take into consideration is that we are navigating a multi-generational workforce. When we think about millennials and we think about Gen Z, whilst to us we can see the ROI and all those things that were mentioned, that's not necessarily tangible for them. Right now, they're facing the concern around, well, AI is coming in, it's going to eliminate certain roles. What am I going to do? I'm not necessarily skilled. I'm not sure what my career path is. So for them, it's really this kind of intention around designing something for them where they have something to walk away with. So something that we developed, so because our company has really solid curriculum developers in the tech space, what we did was, because your entry-level pool of talent, that's your pipeline when you think about it. And it's your job to create a space where employees come for a job and stay for a career. And we do that with our partners, specifically in this example, in the tech space. These employers identified some entry-level roles where it really didn't have a necessarily career trajectory that was favorable, right? It wasn't sexy to a younger generation. So they implemented this earn and learn model. While they're doing their kind of day-to-day, we launched these tech boot camps, and they focused on cybersecurity, generative AI, software engineering, and DevOps. And in a matter of weeks, while these individuals in those entry-level roles were doing their kind of day-to-day, they were also upskilling and reskilling and learning, right, something completely different. And once they finished the training, then we were able to then interview them, to then position them into some very other entry level with a full career pathway and a trajectory into a tech role within that organization. And that became very favorable. And not only did it impact, right, you think your internal mobility strategy, you're decreasing your costs for recruitment because you have this pipeline, being able to now advertise that you are a forward-thinking employer that have these earn and learn models, that when you come in, it's not just about what you're doing right now, but here's this pathway to kind of help you into something that will offer you more of a livable wage. A lot of companies then found that as a great tool to attract talent into some roles that are not necessarily, right, the best for certain populations.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and promoting from within can also align well with DEI initiatives that companies have. Do any of you have experience that you can share around that?
To take that one. So internal mobility in general can really help with retaining diverse talent. And the way that I think about this is, if you take a step back, you have to think about, like, why would somebody who's diverse want to stay at the actual company? The first thing I like to anchor on is the culture of the company. So what's happening? Are we investing in diverse talent? Are we making sure that people have mentors? Do we have strong ERG programs? Things of that sort. I think that offering internal mobility is really just an added bonus, because there you have the opportunity to really say, or the employee can say, like, I want to take onus of my career. I want to grow. We have something at Wayfair called, like, the career jungle gym, where you have a lot of people who've kind of bounced around from certain places, where you can go from marketing to operations to talent. And like myself, it isn't uncommon to be able to hop around. And so once you actually get into the doors of an organization and you realize this is a company that I want to be at, maybe the role isn't the best fit for you and you are curious about going somewhere else, internal mobility really offers the opportunity to allow talent to stay at your organization because they love the company, but two, allows them to really own their career path and to go to where they want to be. Aside from the career jungle gym area, like I just spoke about, but it allows the organization to also have diverse leaders. So as you start to think about internal mobility and promoting from within, oftentimes there's this issue where you see most of your diversity at the junior levels. And as you start to move up, you see less women in diverse roles, you see less underrepresented minorities in diverse roles, and as more senior roles. And so one way that you can get more diverse people into these senior roles is by allowing them to do internal mobility, creating actual opportunities and programs to really grow and to coach these folks and to be the next senior leaders of the company overall. One last thing I wanted to hit on with internal mobility, because I know that we have a few more minutes left, is this is also a great way to just make career paths more equitable. So at Wayfair, we recently launched an internal mobility pool where we are allowing people to basically opt in and say, hey, I want to be considered if anything comes up. Here are all my different skill sets. This is the level that I am. And our recruiters are actually going to this pool first when a role opens up. And so with that, it's this really great opportunity to have this shot at a career path internally at the company. You're talking to the recruiters directly, and it allows us to really offer more folks equal shots at these careers. And some of the results that we've seen have actually been really, really great. Most of the placements have been with women and underrepresented groups so far. And so we think that it's a great way to continue to really expand our diversity and make sure that we're keeping diverse talent there and also giving them opportunities to grow.
Great. Well, so what about the risk of losing people to other companies once you've trained and promoted them? How do you help employees grow and learn, but also encourage them to stay where they are?
It's always a risk, right? There's always that risk of you invest in someone, whether it's through a higher education degree or a relocation or a job rotation, and they leave. But I think, so whatever the opposite of risk averse is what my company is. We're very comfortable with risk. So, the culture is all founded on being problem solvers, and people are really comfortable in the gray and changes. And if you think about the scientific field, similar to what we all hear about in AI, it's just changing every day. So they have to be comfortable with things changing all the time. So we do a lot of, like I'll go back to Allie's story, like an HR partner goes, hey, I know you don't know anything about this, but you want to give it a try. So we tend to do a lot of that and, offer people new experiences. And then, just as they're getting comfortable, we might reach out again and say, hey, do you want to try something again? So I think from what I've heard from employees is that they feel like, oh, I'm given this opportunity, and if I went to apply for a job, I wouldn't meet all the requirements because I don't have the experience. My company's giving me this experience, and then they're going to give me another new, and it creates such a unique experience that's specific to the company that we see great success with that. I think, like you said about, you take a job, but then you build a career. It's really that, you can't get that experience otherwise because, your traditional career path, if you stayed in a function or an area, and you went X outside, you wouldn't get that same experience. So there's that. There's always the conversation about retention risks and pay and equity and things like that. I'm not going to say we don't talk about those things too, but that ability to move people, and our CEO is so passionate about development, and he's always challenging the leaders to look, the next layer down and the next layer down. He wants to know the people and say, give them a chance, go give them a project. So that's kind of embedded into the culture and the thread of how we operate.
I think to the earlier comment, if the culture is bad, people are going to leave anyways. But that being said, when the organizations that we're working with that are trying to address this, when they're looking at their data, the people that are leaving are often saying, I didn't know there was a path, I didn't understand the path, or I wasn't being considered, right? So all of the things we're talking about today are finding ways to both make that more transparent as well as create a broader audience for inclusion.
Yeah.
We're leaning so heavily on skills. I know it's such a buzzword, but when you were talking about skills and connecting pieces, we really push employees to say, like, tell us your skills. And we get some managers to say, well, I want to assess that, or, my employee put this skill in, but I don't agree. And we're really pushing against that to say, if I'm in a talent role and I used to be in compensation, my current boss isn't going to say compensation's a skill of mine because she's never worked with me in that capacity. But so we try to empower employees to really just put anything in there, and they can put whatever it is. And it's a database we rely heavily on. So if we have an open job position, we look at the skills in the job, and we look at the employee database, and we send emails to those people to say, hey, a job opened and it's matches the skills you have. Or with the gigs, it's, you said you want to grow in this, and here's an opportunity. So we try to use data and really lean heavy on those skills to make those matches, because people know. You have to kind of push it to them, or they're not going to go out and find it themselves.
Great. Well, I think that's all the time we have. So thanks so much. It was a really insightful discussion.